I want to finish. I left you with a question from Parsha's Veschanan. That was where we had left off. Is it on? Nachshon, it's on? Okay, so I just, anybody, if anybody watches or listens to this, this is the last shir for next week. There's not going to be shir. The next shir we're going to have is going to be on Sunday, Rosh Chodesh, Parsha Shoftim is going to be the next shir that I'm going to be giving. Other people will give. So we had spoken about in Parshas Veschanan, and then we're going to go on to Parshas Eikev. In Parshas Veschanan, we had left with a question. And where was it? What was the pasuk? Usha'alna on page 964. So the pasuk is right. It's right in the middle of the page. It says, "Ki sha'alna liyamim rishonim asher hayu lefanecha." About 11, 12 lines from the top. Pasuk Lamed Beis. So he said, "Ki sha'alna liyamim rishonim asher hayu lefanecha." Ask liyamim rishonim for in the past. Liben hayom asher bara Elokim adam ala oretz, from time that God created man, u'mikseh hashamayim v'akseh shmayim. Haniya kadover hagodol hazeh u'hanishma kamo. Has there ever been or even been heard such a thing that hashama am kol Elokim medaber mitoch esh kasher shemata bech? Has ever been that a nation heard God, that or claims to have heard God as a nation? Christianity began with one person spreading the word. Islam began with one man spreading the word. Never has there been a collective of a nation who claims together that we heard God. 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60, women, children, older people. So it comes out to approximately 2.5 million people. That's the estimation. Now, what's amazing here is that the Torah itself says, has it ever happened, or has anybody even claimed to have happened? The major religions of the world don't claim that. The major religion of the world, it was one man who spread the word to somebody else. He got a communication of some sort from the prophet or whatever it was, and then spread the word. And the Jewish people say, we heard it collectively as a nation. Now, the question I had left you with last time was that's the plain meaning of the verse. But the question I had left you with is that if you translate in Hebrew, Ki sha'alna liyamim rishonim, the words translate to ask the earlier days. And I left you with a question, how does one speak to days? Right? That was the question we had. So what the Al-Sheikh HaKadosh says, one of the classic, he was in the Tzfas, I call it the Tzfas Club, the Arizal, and Rav Shlomo Alkabitz, who wrote the Lechadodi and the Beis Yosef, Rav Yosef Karo, they were all in Tzfas. And the Al-Sheikh, Rav Moshe Al-Sheikh, so he says like this: when a person does a mitzvah, a mitzvah doesn't just, when you do a mitzvah, it's not just you finished and we go on to the next thing. You did the mitzvah, you actually infused time with some sort of tangible kedusha. There's a tangible holiness. The day itself, if we close that door over there, yeah, Tyler, maybe close that door. The day itself has been infused with kedusha. Someone on a high enough level is actually able to speak to those days. We don't think of those terms. You know, we think, oh, I can't talk to a day. A day was yesterday. Yesterday was yesterday. No, that's how we think about it. The Torah is telling you that the day was infused with mitzvahs and kedusha and holiness. And since it was infused with the mitzvah and holiness, that there's some sort of tangible ones. Obviously, this is according to the Zohar. So according to the Zohar, it's Kabbalistic, so I can't explain it because I don't understand it myself. I only know the concepts. And the concept is that there's something beyond our experience. And yeah, because we always live based on, well, if I've experienced it, if I'll see it, I'll believe it. If I haven't seen it, I haven't experienced it, then forget that it doesn't exist. And the Zohar is telling you, no, there is a concept and somebody on a high enough level. Now, who is on a high enough level? So we're talking about the generation, everybody in the desert who was supposed to have died already. Remember the decree that they're going to die in the desert. So you're talking about the generation of people who are now going into the land of Israel, who are on high enough level that they can now speak to the days. They can speak to the days and talk to the days about what happened. The days specifically are the 6 days between the 1st of Sivan and the giving of the Torah on the 6th of Sivan. But that's why he says, and that's why I told you that the Torah also uses Vayikrevu Yemei Dovid Vayikrevu Yemei Dovid Lamus Vayikrevu Yemei Yisrael Lamus. His days approached closer for him to die. Vayikrevu Yemei Yisrael Lamus. When Yaakov Avinu was going to die, the days approached. The days came close. What do you mean the days came close? The days are just days are passing. It means the days that he had infused with productive holiness because he did the mitzvahs, those days actually come forward. That's what the Alshich says. A very strange esoteric concept. So I could tell you more, but then I'd have to shoot you. That's what I was intrigued by the question because the answer is esoteric, but the question is because of the accuracy of the terminology. That says Ushalna liyamim rishon, and again the context means ask what happened in the past. But if you translate it literally, it means ask the days. Okay, let's go on. And you have the 10 Commandments later in the Parsha, but we're going to go on to Parsha's Eikev. And again, anybody who's watching or listening, this is the last shiur until Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is going to be on the 24th of August. Rosh Chodesh Elul, 24th of August, that's going to be the first day. It's a Sunday, and it's a Parsha Shoftim. Okay. Page 980. V'hoya Eikev tishmeu nes hamishpatim ha'ele. It'll be when you listen, when you obey these statutes, ushmartem ve'asisam osam. You will keep them, and you will guard them, and you will do them. V'shamar Hashem elokecha lecha es habrisa es hachesed. Hashem will keep the covenant and the kindness asher nishba la'avosecha. Now, Rashi says over here, the very first Rashi, right column, top line. So what does the word Eikev mean? What does the word Eikev mean in Hebrew? Anybody know? What's that? A heel. Exactly correct. What's a heel? It'll be if you heal. What a heel? What does that mean? The heel of the foot. Eikev tishmun. So Eikev, in context, is a hard word to translate into English. It'd be because, or it'll be because, or when you listen to obey the mitzvahs. But what's it got to do with a heel? What's it got to do with a heel? So the answer is, take a look at first Rashi. Eikev tishmun. Im ha-mitzvos kalos she'adam dosh ba'akevav tishmon. If the easy mitzvahs is people trample with their feet, with their heels, if you obey those mitzvahs. Now, let me ask you a question. What's easier to obey, an easy mitzvah or a harder mitzvah? Harder mitzvah. Theoretically, you'd think the harder mitzvah is easier to obey, but the truth of the matter is that in life, it's not necessarily like that. Sometimes people, what we perceive as more important, will do. It's a detail. How important could it possibly be? If I set the table for Shabbos, all right, we're into science fiction here, but if I set the table for Shabbos, so, I got to set it. My wife says, make sure, fold the napkins. I set the table, put out a table. I'll put in an extra board or two in the table to make it, if people are coming. And I put out the plates, and I fold a napkin. Oh, this is how you fold a napkin. Isn't that what it means to fold a napkin? That's how I do it. What's wrong with that? No, that's not how you fold a napkin. Oh, come on, it's just a napkin. No. The napkin is shaped into some sort of flower or some sort of something, and it goes in a ring, and it looks really fancy, and it looks, you're almost so fancy you don't want to use it. Why are your hands greasy? Well, I don't want to mess up the napkin. It looks like such a good job. Somebody did such a good job on the napkin. So it's a deed. How important is it really? How important? We all keep. None of us speed when we're driving. None of us speed, Sackstein. Nobody speeds. Nobody goes above, not a mile over the speed limit, right? None of us do that, and we all stop at red lights. What about a stop sign on a lonely side street? And you got that, that phantom stop. It's like the phantom tag at second base for the double play. You don't come to an absolute full stop. Kind of, right? That's when you get nailed, by the way. Cops hate that. That's what they get. My father, the first thing he told me when I got my license, they told me three things. They said, if a ball rolls into the street, stop completely. Because if there's a ball, there's a kid coming after the ball. There's a kid running. If a ball rolls into the street, stop. And sure enough, whenever you'd see a ball roll into the next thing you know, there's the kid. Because who else is playing with the ball? The other thing was, come to a complete stop at stop signs. Everywhere, and I did. I would always stop at the stop sign. I always came to the complete stop. Then he also told me, don't honk at people, because you don't know who's got a gun in their glove compartment. And he said, don't give anybody the finger. So I fulfilled my father's commands 50%. My horn wasn't working. Yeah, you know, they're like, listen, there was road rage in California one year. There were 40 shootings in California. You know, the road rage. You know, people get, you know, the point is that when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, so we do the mitzvahs, we do the main things. What about the little easy things? You know, say, take an example, Zman Kriya Shema. You have to say Kriya Shema by a certain time every day. How important could it be to say Kriya Shema? A lulav, none of us would forget about a lulav. Tefillin, we're going to do. I got to get up and say Kriya Shema, that sort of thing. Zman Kriya Shema today, the Zman Kriya Shema today was the latest time for Kriya Shema, 9:20. That means by 9:20 in the morning, you have to have said Kriya Shema and fulfill a Torah command. All right, it just he's getting up and saying Shema Yisrael, okay, to sing the first paragraph. That's all it takes. All right, how important could it be? Talking in shul. How important could it be? All right, it's a little thing. Somebody's drowning. We first one to try to find them and save them. Somebody was, somebody is hungry, invite them in for your house or guest for a meal. What about the little things that people trample? So the irony of it is, what determines who we are as people is the little things that we do, not the big things that we do. Big things we'll all do. If you saw a guy bleeding on the sidewalk, you know, you would drop what you were doing, and you'd call Hatzalah, and you would help him out. You'd walk away feeling like a national hero. But everybody would do that. Everybody would do that. Who wouldn't do that? But what about Zman Kriya Shema? Even my sons, when they came home from yeshiva, and, you know, the boys are sleeping, and they could sleep. It's what's called doing a bagel. You know what doing a bagel is? Well, doing a bagel is you go to sleep, you get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then go right back to sleep till 9 o'clock the next morning. You know, you just do a 24-hour bagel. You know, you do the cycle. So I would wake them up in the morning. I'd say, listen, guys, no, you don't have to get up now if you don't want. You go to the latest minyan. I don't care, but you got to say Kriya Shema. Get up, say Kriya Shema, go back to sleep. You got to say Kriya Shema. It's no less of a mitzvah than anything else. So we had a bus driver once in my neighborhood. It was a real jerk, pardon the expression. The guy was here in Israel, and he would wait. People would be by the back door, the front door. Okay, he saw somebody wants to get off the back door of the bus. He wouldn't open the door until people begged. I think he liked hearing our American accents. You know, you hear some lady say, "Slicha, nahag tiftach et adeles," you know, until he went. And I remember thinking, it's not that complicated, man. You got two buttons there, just push both buttons at every stop. It's really not that sophisticated. And he was clearly doing it. It was obvious that he was doing it to torture people, just to torture them. I remember once I was driving, I was on the bus with him. You know, a guy apparently didn't like being a bus driver. It's not my fault. You know, you drove the. Okay, so the guy, we're on the bus, so we're driving towards my neighborhood, and all of a sudden he stops the bus, and we're on the main street on Eshkol Boulevard. He stops the bus, and he gets off, and on the sidewalk, a little old lady had fallen down. So he walked over, and he helped this lady to her feet. And then I remember he gets back on the bus, and you can see him, I can read it written on his forehead as he struts back on the bus, like, does anybody around here realize the presence of the tzaddik that who you're in right now? And it was clear that he thought himself like, wow, look what I just said. All right, you know, if you saw a little old lady on the sidewalk, what would you do? Would you kick her? And what was that? Anybody who said, if you had the opportunity, saw a little old lady, you'd pick her up. I'm thinking to myself, listen, you want to be a tzaddik, just open the back door. That's all it takes to be a tzaddik, open the back door. That's the rule. That's the Torah is telling you over here. Don't take any of the mitzvahs for granted. Now, all the mitzvahs are important. At a deeper level, we have 248. There are 248 positive commands, and there are 365 prohibitions. We are made up of what the Gemara says, Ramach Evarim V'Shasa Gidid. We have 248. The word in English we translate as limbs, and 365 sinews or tendons. Whether that's physiologically accurate and what the translation is exactly, that means that we are made up of 613 essential parts. And every time we do a mitzvah, what we're doing is, besides doing the mitzvah, we are providing spiritual vitamins for the corresponding physical part. So a person, even in a physical world, there are certain things that are very necessary. We need to drink a lot of water, especially in hot weather, and you need certain vitamins and certain minerals and everything. There's something called, there's also trace minerals, right? Sometimes you find out you're low on iron. How much iron do you need? You don't need a whole lot. But without that, we don't function. The body doesn't function properly. The spiritual body eventually that's going to exist for eternity, it's nourished based on the mitzvahs that we do. And therefore the Torah is telling you, don't take anything for granted, number one. Number two, you'll notice, if you look in the pasuk over here, do you see anything strange in the pasuk, in the structure of the pasuk? The very first pasuk. Look carefully at the pasuk. There's something that stands out. The giveaway is always in psukim, look for plural and singular, because you find that in the Torah and is always significant. It starts out in the singular, in the plural. V'haya Eikev tishme'un es hamishpatim. When you, tishme'un is you, plural, the Jewish people. And then the Torah says, V'shamar Hashem Elokecha lecha es habrisa es hachesed. Why does it say lecha? Why didn't it say lachem? It started out tishme'un. Tishme'un is plural. So why does it switch from the plural to the singular? Why does it go from tishme'un to lecha? Why does it switch singular to plural? Plural to singular. So the answer is that, why do we daven in a minyan? I'm using minyan as an example. Why do you daven in a minyan? The Gemara says there is more merit when a group of people does a mitzvah than when an individual does it. When you daven with a minyan, the potency of your tefillah increases exponentially based on the minyan. It's not just you davening, it's the whole group is davening. When a group of people is involved in doing a mitzvah, the reward factor that HaKadosh Baruch Hu provides, so to speak, is greater based on the numbers. And it's exponential. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. If one person is doing the mitzvah, there's a certain amount of the pie. If 2 people are doing the mitzvah or 3 people are doing the mitzvah, it's a bigger pie. And it's not just double the pie, it's a bigger chunk, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes when the Jewish people are united and we do mitzvahs together. But even when a group does a mitzvah, you get a group of people doing a mitzvah, the reward, there's maybe more to go around, but it's going to be subjective to each individual, because no 2 individuals put the same effort into the mitzvah ever. So you can have 10 men in a shul in a minyan. One guy had to come from farther away. He drove further, so it was more effort for him to get to shul, besides the expenditure of gasoline. You have another guy who has a reading disability, and he works his way through davening, so he gets more reward than the people who can read smoothly. You have another guy who's not feeling well that morning. He had a headache, and he pulled himself off to shul also. Every mitzvah, no 2 individuals are coming at it from the same exact starting point. So on the one hand, Eikev tishme'un, when you're a group. On the other hand, V'shamar Hashem Elokecha lecha, you as an individual are going to get individual reward. That's what the Mefarshim say. Okay. Take a look at pasuk Yud Zayit. Next pasuk. Ve'ahevcha. If we're good, I made a bracha before, by the way. By the way, anybody who came in late, we're not. This is the last shear for Ben Azmanim till Rosh Chodesh Elul. Rosh Chodesh Elul Parsha Shoftim is going to be the next year. Not personal, but let's see. We don't know what would happen if you would leave the room. But it's not personal. Hashem will love you, bless you, and He will increase you. Uberach privitnecha, He will bless the fruit of your belly, meaning your children. Ufriad mascha degancha v'siroshcha v'yitzarecha, your earth, your produce. Shgar alafecha v'asherot zanecha alamasher Hashem Elokeh alamasher nishma lavasecha lasav. God is going to bless you in all ways. Now, the truth of the matter is, most people, the attitude before you get married and have children, well, most people, what we've been conditioned with is make sure you got a financial basis. Make sure before you get married, you have some sort of financial basis before you start bringing children into the world. right? That's what the standard mindset is. The Torah mindset is that Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to bless you with children. The blessing of children comes before the blessing of produce. How do you account for that? That means that somebody's having children before they got the blessing of produce, which means that the Torah's attitude is, on the one hand, we have to behave responsibly. We do not advocate irresponsibility, and even the idea of trusting in God, bitachon, as Rabbi Gottlieb says, don't confuse bitachon with irresponsibility. We have to behave responsibly. On the other hand, part of responsible behavior is having a plan. I don't have the money yet. Doesn't mean I can't get married. I have a plan for how I will support a family. So the Torah is telling you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. But you don't have to have the what do you call it? This goes to other areas because people sometimes confuse when it comes to children, what are the priorities in life? What are the priorities? It's like there's an old saying, what was the say? 1 second. What are you going to do for a living? And people ask, what do you do for a living? And the question should really be, what are you living? Switch it around. Just switch it around. Not for a living, but living for. Not what are you going to do for a living? What are you living for? Sometimes people think I'm living in order to make a living. Yeah, well, when does that cycle end? So you have to be responsible. You have to have a parnasa. You have to have some way to support a family. But the first thing the Torah says, you have a blessing with children. Then people confuse it with careers. I once read in at Newsweek, Time or Newsweek, years ago. So they had a report on these, I think it was 4 women were interviewed. These are women who are in their early 40s, and they were a product of women's liberation, which means women liberation, meaning that, women who want to be men. And they we're not going to just do be the wife at the home type of thing. We're going to make a career for ourselves. Now, women, they sometimes have to work because the family needs in America today. You can't make it on one income. You need to have 2 incomes. But they're working because that's necessary, not because it's a career, because there's something about having a career. I need to have a career. And these women were kind of duped into they bought the entire propaganda, hook, line, and sinker. They're in their early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. And every one of them said that here we are. We don't have real great chances of getting married. And even if we do get married, we don't have real great chances of having children at this point. And we were deceived by the society. They were very bitter, all 4 of them. Right, very bitter. Why didn't we do the regular thing? So I'm not, obviously, by the way, and I even know women, they're better mothers because they also work outside the house. They can't, they're just not made to be home with the kids all day. There are other women who that's their goal in life, is to be a homemaker and stay in the house, be in the home and stay with. Sometimes I ask guys, what do your parents do? Says, well, my father's an accountant. My mother doesn't do anything. I love when guys say that. My mother doesn't do anything. Just if she would hear that, imagine if she heard, she doesn't do anything. She bakes, cooks, cleans, nurtures, does everything in the house. A kid looks at it as if she doesn't do anything. So Chas v'shalom, that's not our attitude. Our attitude is that the mother's obviously, she's fulfilling a very important role. But the career, for the sake of a career, so then they can leave you at the end of the day, they can leave you hold the stick, you're high and dry. That's what the Torah is like. Okay. Take a look at, let's skip on ahead now. Take a look at Pasuk Tes Zayin. Tezvav. Baruch tiyeh mikol ha'amim, you'll be blessed from all the nations. The next couple of psukim. Lo yivecha akar v'akara uvivemtecha. There will be nobody barren among you, or even among your animals. V'heisir Hashem mikra kol chol. Hashem will remove all illnesses from you. I mean, guys, this is what we could have if we'd be good. V'chol madvei mitzrayim harayim asher yadata. All of the ills that were happening in Egypt, which you knew about, lo yesimam bach, Hashem will not place them on you, unesanam b'chol sonecha. Now, what's the difference between yesimam, lo yesimam bach? It doesn't say lo yitneim bach. It says lo yesimam bach, unesanam b'chol sonecha, but I put them on all your enemies. What's the difference between Pasuk Tezayin. What's the difference between Tazvav? What's the difference between Lo Yesimam Unisanam? So the Farshim says Lo Yesimam means they won't even be put on you temporarily. Unisanam, but all these terrible illnesses, they'll be placed permanently B'chol Sonecha, on all your enemies. And then the Torah gets to the point that I really want to get to here. V'achalta es kol ha'amim asher Hashem lokecha nosei lach. You'll consume all the nations who God gives you. By the way, this does not mean actual cannibalism. We're not going to eat them, even though we don't even know the bracha. I guess you make a borei priha adam. So you'll consume the nations. Lo sachos eincha alehem. Do not have compassion on them. Lo savores Eloheim. Do not worship their gods. Ki mokeshu loch. Because that is a stumbling block for you to worship their gods. Don't have compassion on the nations. Now, what this is talking about is when they go into the land of Israel to take over the land of Canaan, where these were the nations who were pagans and they were into the all various forms of perversions, and God gives an order. These people have a choice. They could either leave or die. Those are the two choices. They could leave if they want. But they cannot stay in the land of Israel when you're there, and if they are, we have to destroy them. You have to kill them. Now, the first question is why? First question is why? Why do you have to kill them? Why, or drive them out? Why can't they just stay here? Well, it's the two-state solution. Right? Isn't that what Macron said? Right? What do you call it? Macron, because he's got France all worked out over there. They just got their act together over there. You know, what they got Muslims, unemployment, and they speak French on top of it. And you know, no fate worse than that. So the what do you call? And then the dork comes out and he says that they should have a two-state solution. As soon as the Palestinians heard that, they stopped the hostage negotiations. Because after all, you know, listen, why negotiate if we're going to have our own state? They're not. They won't have their own state. But that's what he said because he's got it all worked out in France. So why do we have to drive them out? Why do we have to drive them out? The answer is because they are a negative influence. If we're going to live in the land of Israel like Jews, we can't have that society with the valuelessness, the Canaanites, who are into every form of perversion and pagan worship. We can't have that. Remember, it was a very big temptation. People ask, what's the big temptation with idol worship? Or what's the temptation? The analogy I use, imagine somebody wise from about 200, 300 years ago. Take Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin was always considered wise. Poor Richard's Almanac. He always had something wise to say. He had those little glasses also that made him look wise. And he was smart enough to get himself on a $100 bill. Nothing smarter than that. They asked Ben Franklin, could you imagine, tell Ben Franklin 300 years ago, one day there's going to be a box with images on it, and people will be glued to this box. They will be families sitting around viewing the images on this box. This box will occupy every room of a home, including bathrooms. And it's going to be have the most dominant effect and influence on the society. Do you think that Ben Franklin, with all of his wisdom, could have possibly imagined what television would be like and what the draw would be? He couldn't imagine it because it didn't exist. There was no frame of reference for him to be able to imagine television. For us, when we hear about idol worship, we don't understand that idol worship, when it existed in its original state, there was a spiritual high to idol worship. It's like somebody asks you, what is heroin like? Go describe to somebody the sensation of heroin. Right? Anybody who's never used heroin, how are you going to describe that? Well, it's just like marshmallow fluff, but a little different. You know, how are you going to describe heroin to somebody? He can't describe it. What's skydiving like? Well, it's kind of like jumping up and down on your mattress, but different. No, there's no comparison. Because I can tell you, what's the proof? I have jumped up and down on my mattress. I would not skydive. There's no connection whatsoever. So what is it? There's no comparison. Okay. So idol worship was an addiction. and it was a drive and a draw. There was something to it. And therefore the Torah says we can't have that because that's forbidden for Jews. Therefore they got to get these people out of the land. Now, if they don't want to leave, you're going to have to kill them because we can't leave this cancer spreading around. We just can't leave it around. Those are your choices. Now, what are the Torah teaching you over here? The Torah is teaching you, Torah says, it emphasizes, lo sochos eincha aleim, don't have compassion on them. And from this we learn, don't be more compassionate than God. Don't think that God made a mistake and we're going to be more compassionate. If God says destroy them, then that's what we have to do. So this brings us to the question of vegetarianism. Is vegetarianism permissible in Judaism? Is it permissible according to halacha to be a vegetarian? So there are three types of vegetarians. By the way, I don't know if any of you are vegetarians. My experience with vegetarians is that you find out that the person is a vegetarian very soon. Somehow, when you meet a vegetarian, you find out that they're vegetarian right away, right? Or at some point in the conversation, that will come up, right? And true or not true? You know, I like hot dogs. I don't really share that information when I meet. Hi, my name's Kaplan. I love hot dogs. A good grilled burger also. It's on, you know, I'm a carnivore. I don't mention that to people. Well, vegetarians, somehow, they always make sure you know that they're a vegetarian. So the question is, are you allowed from a halachic point of view to be a vegetarian? So there are three types of vegetarians. Number one, I don't like meat. I don't enjoy meat. According to halacha, you don't enjoy meat, you don't have to eat meat. Nothing wrong with eating meat. With not eating meat, except that you miss out on certain mitzvahs. Because on Yontif, there's a mitzvah to eat at least a kazayas of meat. We're talking about beef. Shabbos, you don't have to if you don't like it. Shabbos is only for oneg. Oneg is delight. If you don't enjoy it on Shabbos, you don't have to eat it. On Yontif, so you have to have meat and wine. A little bit of meat, a little bit, because the Gemara says there's no simcha. Ein simcha el b'basar v'yayin. Simcha, rejoicing is with meat and wine. If the Gemara also says there's no rejoicing without food in general. There's got to be food. If you go to a wedding and there's no food, you know, forget it. You know, no food, no gift. You know, if you get together people get together, you know, you wine and dine people in order to make a sale. And we know that it puts you in a different mood. You sit down, food is a social icebreaker. Meat, wine is simcha. That's yontif. Shabbos is not about simcha. Shabbos is about oneg, delight. You eat gefilte fish, and do you like gefilte fish? If you like gefilte fish, eat it. If you don't like gefilte fish, how many of you don't like gefilte fish? The eyes have it, right? If you don't, my wife in 40 years of marriage, over 40 years of marriage, has never, ever made homemade gefilte fish. How do you like that? You know, I like actually the frozen stuff like they serve in the yeshiva. They drop it in, you know, frozen loaf that it doesn't taste like fish. I don't like it. I don't like the smell. I don't like anything about it. Before I was married, and the problem is every Jewish woman thinks she makes the best gefilte fish in the world. And every time I'd go out for a Shabbos, you know, they're serving gefilte fish. I said, thank you very much. I don't do it. I don't do gefilte fish. Oh, taste mine. I would skydive before I do that. So eventually I got to the point I just said, well, I'm allergic to fish. That people always respect allergies. They say, well, I'm allergic to fish. Oh, is there anything else we get? Yeah, doctor said ribeye steak is really a good substitute. That's how I got out of it. I couldn't touch the stuff. Shabbos, you don't enjoy chicken, you don't enjoy meat, you don't have to have it because it's oneg. Yontif, you're missing out on a mitzvah. But I don't like meat. Okay, you don't like meat, so don't eat meat. That's no problem if you're a vegetarian because you don't enjoy meat. I don't enjoy how it feels. I don't enjoy it. I don't feel well from it. No problem, according to halacha. The second type of vegetarian is somebody who does like meat, but I'm protesting the meat industry. I don't like the way the meat industry treats animals, veal, where they fatten them up. It's starbuck. I'm protesting the meat industry. Listen, if you want to protest and you think that by you not eating that burger, it'll affect how the meat industry treats calves, then, you know, it's up to you. Just give me the burger, right? That's up to you. You could do that. Nothing wrong with that. I don't say you're not going to accomplish much, but if you want to do that, that's fine. The third person says, I don't eat meat because I think it's morally wrong to slaughter animals. That person is going against the word of Hashem. That's forbidden according to halacha, because then it makes it sound like you know better than God. God created the animals. God tells us to use animals, sacrifices. We slaughter animals to make shoes out of the hide. We slaughter animals in order to eat them, and God said it's perfectly acceptable, and in certain times it's a mitzvah. A person who comes along and says, I'm smarter than God, so then that person falls into the category of being a kofar. He is going against the word of God. That would be forbidden. Here the Torah says, Lo sachos ein chalem. Do not have compassion on them. Because I, God, am telling you that if you leave them around, they are going to destroy you either physically or spiritually. Imagine, let me ask you a question. I'll give you a dramatic example. You're walking on the streets of Austria in about 1895. There's a mother pushing a baby in a carriage. This little baby Hitler. And at that moment, you get a prophecy. And there's no question that it's a prophecy. It's a prophecy from God. And God is telling you, you are the last line of defense between that baby and what that baby will do if you don't kill him right now. He will do exactly what he did, but you're the last line of defense, and you have a prophecy, and it's unmistakably a prophecy from God. We're not talking about somebody who's hallucinating or somebody got drug flashback. You know that it's a prophecy. We're using an example. Just go with it. What should you do under those circumstances? He is at that point. You know that there's a halacha that if a woman is in childbirth and there's a threat to her life from the unborn baby, and the only way she's going to survive is the baby is killed. So until the baby's head comes out, what's the halacha? Does anybody know? You kill the baby. Why? Why?
We value life.
We value life, but why do you kill? What's the specific halachic justification? Why the baby? Why not the mother?
Considered to be high, right?
But when his head comes out, then you don't touch either of them. But why before the head comes out is it that you kill the baby? Because the baby, he's still part of her. But what's the halachic justification? But he could also grow up and make babies. Okay, the halachic, he's a rodef. He's a pursuer. If you see a guy chasing another guy with a knife to kill him, so you have to step in and kill the pursuer. You have to kill the pursuer unless it's justified. But if it's not justified, you have to step in and kill the pursuer. The baby, until the baby is born, once the baby is born, the head comes out, so then it's even. But until that head comes out, the baby's a pursuer. We know that baby in the carriage is a pursuer. Prophetically, we know what God's telling you, these people are going to pursue you. They're going to pursue you spiritually, they're going to pursue you physically, therefore they have to be destroyed. That's what the Torah says. Okay. Now, take a look at all the way down to Pasuk Chaf. I'll show you an interesting Rashi over here. He's talking about when you're going to go into the land, and Hashem's gonna help you defeat these nations. And 6 lines from the bottom. V'games hatzira yishalach Hashem lokecha bam. Hashem will send the wasps. How does he translate wasps or hornets? Hashem will send the hornets. There was one of the superheroes was called the Green Hornet. Somebody, do you remember the Green Hornet? Yeah, that was a long time ago. Ooh, that was a long time. Who was the guy with Cato? There wasn't the Green Hornet. It was with Cato. Who was the green? What? The green something. The green something or other than Cato, right? Something with Cato, right? Oh, yeah, Cato was the karate guy, and so they had, but there was a Green Hornet. Maybe it was a Green Hornet. Was it a Green Hornet in Cato? I don't think so. The green something or other and Cato. See what a sophisticated background you missed? So he says, "V'games hatzira yishalach Hashem elokecha bam." Hashem will send the wasp. Aravod hanisharim v'anistarim epanecha. They'll destroy those who remain and those who are hidden from you. In other words, we'll go to. What about the guys who are hiding and they got tunnels, or hiding places? How are we going to get those enemies? Hashem will send wasps. Now take a look at this Rashi. Very, very strange. Rashi says hatzira, left column, 3 lines at the top. Min sheretz ha'of. It is some sort of wasp. A sheretzof means a small flying creature, not actual birds. What do you call wasps, bees, all those things? An insect. Thank you. Daylight and $1 short. Means sheretzof. Shahaisa zorekes bahem mora. It sprayed poison at them. Umisarastan. It castrated them. Umisama esenem, and it blinded their eyes. B'chol makom she'en storms wherever they were hidden. It was a nasty creature. Got him high and low. Right? What's this got to do? I mean, okay, I understand it blinded them, castrated them. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? So the answer is the Canaanites are descended from who? They come from Ham, Noach's son Ham. What did Ham do? What did his son Canaan do? What did Ham do? Ham saw Noach exposed, and then he went and castrated his own father, the Gemara says. Why? Because there were 3 sons of Noach who were going to divide the world, and he didn't want that there should be a 4th son, and he'll have a share of the world as well. So Ham sinned in 2 ways. He looked at his father. Remember, Shem and Yefes took the garment, and they covered their father when he was exposed. What did Ham do? Ham got wow! He looked at it in a very inappropriate way. So he sinned with his eyes, and then he went and he sinned by castrating his father. What was God pays back, Mida keneged Mida. What happens to his descendants? What happens to his descendants? They get blinded and they're castrated. That means that something that happened a couple thousand years earlier, the effects that ancestors have, spiritual effects in one way or another, they're going to go. So it didn't have to happen to them if they would have behaved and they wouldn't have worshipped idols and they wouldn't have been involved in all sorts of debauchery. So then it would have happened. But because it did happen, so then the punishment becomes something that's lingering, something that's been activated in the Bria itself, which is the ancestor Cham. Okay. One more point. Lo sa'arotz mipnehem. Don't be afraid of them. 4 lines on the bottom. Ki Hashem Elokecha b'kirbecha kel godol v'nora. Hashem is in your midst, a great mighty God. Gentlemen, you go to the dentist. Nobody should have to go. But you go to the dentist. And it's going to be a root canal. One of life's most enjoyable experiences. Right? It's going to be a root canal. At least give me the laughing gas to make it, make at least get something out of the day. Now, before they start the root canal, what does he do? Gives you a shot of Novocaine. That's also no fun. It's also no fun. Which one are you more concerned about? The shot of Novocaine or the root canal itself? What's on your head? What's that? The shot?
Well, you won't feel it after you get the shot.
Right, but when you're going to the dentist, what are you thinking about, the shot or the root canal? Right, the root canal. First they put you in pain, then they take your money. It's never a good day at the dentist. It's just not a good day at the dentist. Let's go to the ballpark. It's just not a good day at the dentist. Are you a dentist?
My wife is an endodontist, so be very careful what you're saying.
Oh, she won't watch. Make sure to fast forward when you get to this part over here.
They think the money goes broke.
Yeah, at least that. Yeah, well, so for those of us who are not, what are you really concerned about? What are you really concerned? You're concerned about the root canal. That means that there may be 2 things to be afraid of sometimes in life. But one of the things pales in comparison to the really major idea. Okay, so what God says, don't be afraid of them, because God is awesome. A Godol Venora. How does he? A great and awesome God. What's the Torah really telling you over here? Torah saying there are 2 things to fear. We have to fear God, and we have to fear the Canaanites. Now, which one do we really have to fear more? That means when a person is in a situation we were just had this situation. Every time the sirens went off, people ran to bomb shelters. On your way to the bomb shelter, you're worried about stubbing your toe. Nobody's thinking about that. Nobody's thinking about their banging their knee on a chair in the bomb shelter. You're thinking about bombs. So when there's a bigger fear, the little fears, the minor fears, they pale in comparison. So the Torah is telling you, what are you're afraid of the nations? You're afraid of these people? They're people. You have a great and awesome God that we have to fear. And I tell you, fear means there are levels of fear. You could fear the punishment, and then there's fear. We're just in awe of God. It's a higher level of fear. We use the word fear to be in awe of God. But at the end of the day, what are these? They're insignificant people, and that's why the Torah connects it up over here. The Torah says you got nothing to worry about. You're worried about the people. A person who's really afraid of something bigger has zero concern about the little things. I don't even think about the Novik. To the contrary, I say, bring it on. Bring on the Novik. I asked the guy, what's the legal limit? Hit me with the legal limit. I just don't want to feel anything. I think it's 8. I think it's 8 shots. And as soon as he says, tell me if it hurts, as soon as he starts drilling, I just go like this. Give me another shot. What are you making me wait? Just give me the shot. I don't want to feel it. Because then I'm afraid of much more of that. The Novocaine is actually pretty cool. And you're like, hey, I don't have a face. I only have half of a face. I had one shot once when they pulled out my wisdom teeth. The guy gave me a shot in the roof of the mouth. I said, is this going to hurt? He says to me, well, you're going to feel some pressure. You know what that means. That means that you're about to experience pain like few people in history ever have before. He says, you can feel it. He gives me the shot in the roof of my mouth. And I'm like, I felt like the needle was going out top of my skull. Like that. And he says, yeah, that's no walk on the beach. I didn't want to hear that. Oh, really? Neither is this, buddy. And he seemed to be enjoying it too much. That's what the Torah is telling you. The Torah is telling you over here. It was German too. That's what the Torah is telling you over here. That the what do you call it? That if there's you keep a perspective. What are you worried about? Are you worried about them? If we have true understanding of what fear of God is, so that we have nothing to worry about with the enemies. All right, gentlemen. So again, this is the last year. We're not going to have a shiur till Rosh Chodesh Elul, and be Parshas Shoftim. So for Re'eh, you're on your own. Okay. Please tell Rabbi. Rabbi Wax, I'll try calling him again today, but please don't.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.